You are listening to the JP Show,
where we discuss the issues you care about from a Jewish perspective.
I am Rabbi G.
And I am Rabbi Levi.
And we hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, everyone, welcome back to another JP episode. We've taken a break for a while, but we are back.
We're definitely back.
And we're ready to go, ready to roll. So I was
Why did we take a break?
Sorry?
Why did we take a break?
Why did we take a break? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, first of all, just everyone should understand, we both took a break. We were both away. We took a break because, I don't know, I think to sum it up in a nutshell, you gotta fill up your gas tank in order to drive. So I'm talking about spiritually speaking, actually. It wasn't much of a holiday. It wasn't much of a holiday or a rest, actually. We were in New York. For those who don't know, we were in New York over the period of Gimel Tammuz, the 3rd of Tammuz, the 30th Yahrzeit of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Also had the great honor because while I was there, it was also my Hebrew birthday, as we've spoken about, when I turned 60. So I spent that at the graveside of the Rebbe as well, davening and praying and learning and so on. So it was, yes, it was a real spiritual boost.
It definitely was. You know, the idea of sort of stopping what you're doing to go away, right? That's what I was thinking about as we started this. Like, you think about it, like we didn't accomplish as much as we normally do, at least in one area during those 2 weeks, whatever it was. But yet we still do it. It's interesting. It's an interesting concept. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about, in a way, Shabbos is a similar concept in the sense that Shabbos, we don't deal with the world as much as we normally do during the week. The mission of a Jew is to go out into the world and bring God into the world. But on Shabbos, we sort of retreat for 24 hours. But
right.
we do because it's necessary in order to fulfill our mission.
That's right. You mentioned a very interesting thing that you said about the week. So sometimes people think that like Shabbos is, the goal in itself, and like the weekday just when you do your own stuff, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it's not true. Like you said, it's a mission. In fact, in the Torah, where it talks about the mitzvah of keeping Shabbos, it actually says 6 days a week you shall work, which some people understand to mean actually as a mitzvah. Like God is instructing us 6 days a week you shall work, which in other words, do not detach from the world, be involved, elevate, accomplish, spread, teach, aspire, whatever. But then once a week, you got to retreat back into a different world in order for the next week to be effective.
Yeah. Sometimes there's like this anxiety, like you can't take off because it's going to happen to what you're doing. But I think,
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just anxiety. Came
right.
back. BINA is still standing.
Not only still, it's going to be strengthened. That's the point.
For sure. I'm saying, but while we're away, people who filled in for us did a great job.
That's right. We're not as important as we think. I think that's also part
exactly. No one's run away.
That's right.
But hopefully we can make a difference. And yeah. So how do you feel you were recharged?
So there's a number of things I wanted to discuss here about the trip. So before we get to the spiritual aspect, just going to throw something out here. I never really thought about this in a deep way, actually. So part of this trip was also spending time with family. Not a lot, but a little bit. I have, of course, a brother. I have 2 sisters who live there.
One sister happened to be here while the way.
But yeah, nevertheless. Anyway, so we went to Pomona, which is a place near Muncie, New York, for a night, and stayed up chatting with my brother till 2 o'clock in the morning, which, we don't talk that often. He lives far away. So, like, why besides fact, obviously, a person wants to spend time with their family, it's sort of a natural thing, but why do you think it's important to nurture family relationships? Is it just because it's just a natural thing, or there's actually a value to it?
I think it's
your siblings. Obviously, your children, you have responsibilities to your children. I'm talking about specifically spending time with your siblings and sort of that type of thing, cousins.
So first of all, it's an interesting question there. First of all, there's a verse in Tanakh that says, "Mipsarcha al tis'alem," do not hide from your own flesh. And we know that there's a huge. First of all, human beings are wired for connection, and we need to be connected with other people, and we need to have relationships. But family is very important. It's In fact, we're defining the laws of tzedakah, laws of charity. That, for example, if you have a family member that's in need, it takes preference over other people because it's your responsibility. So the world was created generally for relationships. The world was created in a way of mashpia and makabel, giving and receiving, which really is the basis of all relationships, where we give to each other, we receive from each other, and so on. And God designed that in a specific structure, a structure of layers. And the inner layer of that actually is very importantly family. Now, sometimes friends, to some people is more valuable than family because you don't get to choose your family. So it is. But there's a lots of halachic sources about responsibility we have to family, connection of family, the strength of connecting with close relatives and close family. I think it's extremely important. I mean, Yiddishkeit, we know that when the Jews left Egypt and God gave the commandment to eat the Paschal lamb, right, and how to eat it in groups. So it says, it was to their families and the extended family. That was a really, really important thing, the idea of a nucleus of a family to serve Hashem together and to grow together and to connect with each other, inspire each other. Very fundamental.
Do you think it's something that people should put more time and effort into? Let's say someone, thank God it's not true in my case, but let's say someone just doesn't get along with their siblings. Maybe it's just okay. Say so I won't spend time with them. Like, is it something that's worth to invest?
Yeah, I think yes. I think it is. I don't think that means that your person's brother has to be your best friend. Like, could be very different. But I think people should never cut off from their family, and people, even when they don't have to have the deepest relationship with their family, but there has to be family respect. There has to be care for each other. It's part of our responsibility. You have to look out for family. You have to reach out to family. Like even now, when you went for a night to Pomona to spend time with your brother, that's not only for you, it's for him too.
Yeah.
Everyone gains, they connect. There's common roots, there's common values, there's common history. There's just a lot to be gained.
I think also, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm interested to, not that you're a psychologist either, but you're definitely closer than I am. But I think part of it also is like your siblings, it's a part of you in a way. Just even physically, but also just it's part of your childhood. It's part of your running away from that can't be a healthy thing. It can't be a healthy thing to cut yourself off from something which is intrinsically a part of you.
I think it's very well said. I think, yeah, it's an extension of you.
So that was one beautiful part of the trip. We all spent the Shabbos together, all the boys.
That was the most amazing thing.
And sons-in-laws.
It was just for the benefit of the listeners. So my birthday was on Friday, and then that Shabbat my 2 sons and 3 sons-in-law spent a Shabbos together at the Rebbe's resting place, where they have facilities to people to sleep, and not fancy, but and food and the most amazing experience, because first of all you accomplished a lot of things together actually, because first of all it was amazing family time where we kind of bonded together. And when you spend a Shabbos at the oil, for those who are not familiar, it's kind of nothing you can do there other than daven, learn, and have a farbrengen together. So yeah. And that's what we did. We slept very, very little. We were up on Friday night till 2 a.m. Back up at like 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, most of us. And learning a few hours and davening, and then we said l'chaim together, we sang together, we inspired each other, we shared with each other. It was the most incredible experience, and not just a family thing, it was spiritually a very uplifting experience. Is that what you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, no, that's what it was. It was amazing. I think it was a very powerful experience. I think part of the experience for me, every time because we don't live near there, so going there is a big deal. Some people it takes 20 hours to get there and back. Some people it takes like 60 hours to get back. It depends who you are. But
I did it the way back with a bit of cancellation flights and delays and things, going through Japan at the end of the day. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So it's a big deal, right? And for you sort of value every moment and you want to soak it all in. And every time I go, it just ends up happening that way. You sort of like leave and you spend the time reflecting on like a particular message, like that sort of, it's very interesting. Like when you start thinking about something, you start seeing it everywhere. So you start, even though you can learn things that contain different things, you sort of things that stick out. When you spend time by the Rebbe's oil, you sort of think what the Rebbe stood for, what he taught, what his message was. especially around his Yahrzeit. And I mean, there was just, I mean, the day of his Yahrzeit, that was on Tuesday, 3rd of Tammuz, throughout the 24 hours, there must have been 50,000 people who came through there. I mean, we were there. We spent quite a bit of the night there, packed the whole night. We were back there the next morning. It was packed in the morning. It was just unbelievable. So the energy was unbelievable. And one of the thoughts that went through my mind a lot during the trip, and something that I want to sort of retain and bring back here, is, I think one way of putting it is the Rebbe's almost like aversion or disgust of the word limitation. In Hebrew, Hakbala, the idea of like, sort of like, I can only do till here, or I'm satisfied with what I did. We were, actually you were, but I've heard the story from him as well. You were sitting with a particular chassid, and we could say his name. His name is Rabbi Yossi Gordon from Melbourne. I believe it was on the bus on the way to the oil.
Yeah, I met him on the bus. He's an amazing.
And why don't you say that story? Actually, it's a very powerful story.
It's a story, but it's very typical of stories with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was a student in Miami when he was a single student before he moved to Melbourne, before he had a family. And it was at a time when the Rebbe put out a big call for certain mitzvahs called the mitzvah campaign, or the mitzvah campaigns. And one of them was to make sure people have mezuzahs. So him and his friends got to work, and they encouraged people to put up a mezuzah, and they, in a short amount of time, they managed to put up 40 new mezuzahs on doors that hadn't had mezuzahs previously. And they wrote to the Rebbe thinking that, wow, this is great, you know, they got stuck in and they're 40 mezuzahs, and they sent it in like a report to the Rebbe, to which they received an answer, something, I remember exact wording, was something like this: in a city where there are more than 40,000 Jews, may there be more, Ken Yirbu, question mark, exclamation mark, like 40 mezuzahs, that's what you're proud of?
Right.
So they got to work, they took the message, the next report was 400 mezuzahs, and that time the Rebbe said, thank you. Meaning, the Rebbe understands that obviously you're not going to put up everyone, you know, like there's human limitations, but not to be reckoned with too much. Like you got to get stuck in there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's just like story after story and idea after idea. And then we were learning about this, and it just comes up again and again, this idea of that a Jew has a soul which is one with God, and therefore we're infinite. We're infinite in the sense that we can go beyond our nature. We can go beyond, and not only our nature, actually, we shouldn't even limit ourselves to sort of even the natural order of the world in a sense. Obviously, we live in this world, and the Rebbe was a big proponent of going to doctors and doing things according to nature, but not to limit yourself to that, never to say, because the natural order says I can't, do this. No, God is beyond nature, transcends nature, and we're connected in a very deep way to that God. So we can also transcend nature in a sense.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. I mean, I think the way I always think about it is that, we talk about the soul being like an infusion of a divine infusion.
Mm.
So it's like an infusion of infinity. So yeah, we have that to like transcend, just to transcend the limitations of our own limitations, our own borders, our own, but even from the world, like you say, just to transcend the limitations that we think we are faced with.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this concept, and the truth is there's another side to it, right? So let's just go back to that story about the mezuzah campaign. On the other hand, the Rebbe was also extremely into the concept of simcha, of being happy, right? Every picture you see of the Rebbe smiling. It's sort of like iconic almost, right? And then he was very extremely encouraging the idea of joy and simcha and all that. So how does that go together? It's a very interesting thing, right? You would think, I put up 40 mezuzahs, it's like an unbelievable accomplishment. Be happy with yourself for 5 minutes. No, right away there was an answer. You didn't even begin to do what you were supposed to do, right? How does that go together with staying positive and upbeat? Like if someone beats themselves up the whole day, like, I'm not doing enough, it's never enough, I'm never going to accomplish anything anyway. So like, it can almost lead to the opposite effect. It can almost lead to like, well, if 40 is nothing, I might as well not even try.
So I think it's all part of a bigger picture. I mean, to answer your question in a different way, I knew some very, very great and elder Hasidim. One that always comes to mind is, I think we've mentioned him before, his name was Remendel Futterfass.
Yeah.
Person that never took himself seriously, always laughed at himself, was a great man, a great Hasid. Had a life of very, very difficult pain and tragedy. Never made a big fuss of himself. He couldn't stand people made a fuss of him. And he was always happy, right? Always happy. And I think the happiness comes because it depends how you take this. I mean, by the way, the Rebbe wouldn't say this to people who couldn't take it. These were his devoted bocharim, devoted students. And the fact that the Rebbe acknowledged them was great and basically gave him a push. And I think that would have come with great simcha. Like, okay, not that it wasn't nothing. You understand, of course, it's something. Every mitzvah we know because you ought to take all the Rebbe's teachings and all Torah's teachings in context.
Yeah.
If one Yid puts up one mezuzah, that's infinite and it's amazing and it's eternal and it's fantastic. At the same time, they were saying it's great, but come on, like, you know what I mean? And as Chassidim, we have that tradition that if the Rebbe says, I want you to do more, he's giving a blessing, like he's motivating you, he's energizing you to do more. So it would have come, for someone who understands the perspective, it would have come with great joy, actually. And the great joy is that even though we're imperfect, and even though we're never quite there, but that's what human life is about. And just the happiness to know that we have the gift of being on the journey, the gift that we could always do more, the gift that Hashem wants us to do more, and He gives us the power to do more, and that we can learn and we can push ourselves a bit more, and that actually should not induce paralysis or despondency. It should induce actually great joy.
Yeah. So you're never satisfied, but you're always happy.
Right. You're not complacent. That's the thing. You're not complacent or satisfied, but happy. You're always happy. On the contrary, happy because you know you're not perfect. And you know that Hashem understands that, and that He created you flawed. That's the way it is. Hashem created us imperfect because He gave us that ability to grow, which is the unique human gift.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an amazing message. Like we think we're a lot smaller than we are. And it's not that we're big. Like, it's also not about being arrogant, right? It's not about, his message wasn't, you're the most, you're an amazing, talented person and you have, there's no one else in the world like you. That's not the point, actually.
No.
The point is not actually about you. The point is about you have a piece of God in you. So if you go beyond the ego, if you go beyond the self,
yes, exactly.
You can go into the world of absolute infinity, where
exactly.
when you're not a barrier to yourself.
Right, exactly.
So what's the message you took?
So I think there were a number of things. I thought about that a lot. Obviously, every time I go there and I switch off, which is a good thing to do anyways once in a while. But it wasn't a switch off as a escape. It was a switch off to reflect. Like, when you're working, when you're doing stuff, right? We're teaching, we're doing BINA, whatever. It's actually bad to self-evaluate the whole time, because I think that's when you're obsessively always questioning yourself and thinking, that's actually a bad thing, because you've got to get on with the job.
Yeah.
But once in a while, you've got to be able to take stock, right? And this idea about using the time better. What does He actually want from us? What's the approach to some of the difficulties that are standing in the way, whether they organizational difficulties, whether it's funding difficulties, whether it's whatever difficulties come our way, which they always are. I mean, there are always some. And it's about also like tapping into that thing where there's like tremendous power out there. There's tremendous blessing. Also, I think the idea that the Rebbe spoke about after the previous Rebbe passed away, which I think was a message for now, that the flow of blessing is still very strong and stronger, I think. You feel that. I feel it very strongly when you go to the oil, when you actually go into the place where he's buried, when you daven there, there's this very, very powerful energy there, very, very powerful. And then you sort of motivate, you come out, you're motivated to, okay, so what am I going to do more? I reflected and I sort of even documented some of the things I wanted to do when I came back and think about and kind of thing, because I think it just gives you a tremendous boost. The other thing I would say also is just the importance. I think one of the things that we did this, part of this together, is to take off time to learn for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Now we don't have the time here to do it as much as we did it there. That was like great. It was like being back in yeshiva. We took some topics and we just researched them and went into it, and it was fantastic. But we need to make sure we have time to do it here also. You can't give unless you learn. Like, you've got to keep growing yourself in order to give.
Yeah.
So while the goal, of course, is to give, but you've got to fill up. And obviously it's done in a more emphasized way when you're completely away and away, and you can spend more time and all that. But just strengthening that part of what we're doing as well. But I'm very energized. And also the idea of the same sort of thing you're saying about transcending our It's not about us, and it's not about our achievements, it's not about our talents. It's about the infinity of God, like the infinity of the whole idea of bitachon, for example, that we talked about giving, letting go, letting God run the world, not to worry about the difficulties, but obviously to do what you need to do, to make the right channels, to be responsible, and letting God run the show.
Why don't you talk about your trip back? I think it was quite an actually interesting story. So you sort of got totally, your flight got canceled. You're gonna miss your connection. You ended up coming back a day late.
Yeah, a day late.
How was that experience? And how did you? I was thinking as it was happening to you, like, is it gonna ruin the whole trip? Like, are you gonna come back like totally,
On the contrary,
ruined and tired and just angry?
I have to combine two things here. I have to acknowledge my Thursday morning group, personal growth, which I've been doing for over a decade. Every Thursday morning we do different personal growth topics, and I often think about trying to, at least aspiring to, practice what I preach. Doesn't always succeed, but I try. And then also the inspiration that we got when we were there now, right? So I mean, I'll just just for the sake of interest, I'll tell you what happened. So we, our normal route, we always do this. We go from New York to California, an hour and a half break, California to Sydney, and then you go to the dateline, you miss a day. So it was supposed to be Sunday night. Sunday afternoon, we're supposed to go to California. We live in California, and then we were supposed to take a plane and arrive here Tuesday morning because you missed the Monday. Okay.
I was on a different plane, by the way, for those wondering. I was going to come a day later.
Yeah, I was there with Rabbi G, and you ended up coming before me. But so I was on this plane. We were delayed, so we said, "Oh no!" So now we're going to miss the connection. Okay, eventually it takes off. Maybe we'll make the connection. We get to California just in time. We can make the connection. Honestly, about 10 minutes. I got off the plane and boarded the next plane, like literally. Get on the next plane. They say, "No, they're not quite ready to leave because they're waiting for other connecting flights. They're waiting for 24 other people." That took another 45 minutes on the plane. So I thought I just made it, but actually I made it with a lot of time. Okay, everyone's on the plane. They pack flight. They pull out all the way to the runway. Then there's an announcement. We're having some issues with the compressor of the air conditioning, which I don't know what that means, but obviously you can't fly with that. I would have been happy to fly without air conditioning just to get out of there, but I don't know what that means. I guess it's not safe to fly that way. So we're going to go back to the gate and we're going to call maintenance. They go back to the gate. They call maintenance. There's after about an hour, they still haven't fixed it, and apparently legally now the pilot time is timed out. So now we're going to have to cancel the whole flight. We'll rebook you at a later date. That was when I heard that later date. No, not later date. I'm rebooking for tomorrow. So, I've got things to do in Sydney, right? So anyway, can you imagine to rebook an entire plane? We were on the line for hours. Self and Rabbi Chaitan. Eventually we got to the desk. Only way they can send us is, actually it was funny, they said we can send you today. I said, you mean tomorrow? No, but I didn't realize by that time it was 2:00 in the morning. So it's today already, right? So it was already Monday. So we can send you Monday night through Japan, which means another 11 hours to Japan, another 6 hours all the way to Sydney. Anyway, that's what happened. Actually, the Japan flight was pretty good. They're good airlines. And we arrived in Sydney Wednesday morning. So can you imagine how, I'm just saying, normally, in fact, it was very interesting because number one, the inspiration of the trip, but also like, the Thursday morning personal growth stuff that I've done was actually very different to how it would have been a number of years ago. I would have been a wreck a number of years ago, complete wreck. But, we're thinking and learning and growing, and you actually, the whole way, I was perfectly calm. It's in God's hands, whatever he wants us to do, and there must be a purpose. So I remember thinking this was like 1:00 in the morning. I'm standing in line. It's very boring. Each guy takes a lot of time to rebook for some reason. So, I took out my iPad and I actually took something light. I learned something. Maybe that's the purpose. I'm not sure. The next day in California, went to davening, learned something. It was just, wherever we are, we've got to make it work. And I was very much under the influence of the inspiration. And I thought to myself, no, I'm not going to let this dissipate. I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to carry it into this experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty tired. I'm pretty jet lagged at the end, but it was actually a liberating experience to be able to go through that without getting upset, without getting angry, without getting frustrated. Because wherever you are, you can make it work. Wherever you are, Hashem is there with you. The purpose and values you live with are there with you. So if it's to, I was thinking to myself, funny, I'll just tell this quick story. There's a book called Hayom Yom, which is a calendar that the Rebbe once wrote, and with every day a quote from the previous Rebbe. And I looked at the one we were going to miss, which is Tuesday, because we didn't have Tuesday. It was a long Monday night, and then we arrived here on Wednesday because the dateline. So I checked out that one, and it says that it was unbelievable, because while this was happening, what it said was, wherever you go, that's where God wants you to go. God prepares the steps of man, and wherever you come, it's for a purpose, either to do a mitzvah between you and God or to help someone else. So that's it. So I'm thinking that. So I'm not sure what I'm going to be landing in Japan for. I spent an hour there. Not quite sure what my purpose is there, but that's what, I try to find a few Jews, maybe I'll talk to them. I couldn't find anyone, mostly Japanese. And a few Aussies and this, that, and the other. So I sat down and in a short time and tried to learn something, which is a mitzvah, and studied something for 20 minutes, a talk from the Rebbe, actually. And I thought, okay, if that's my purpose, that a talk had to be learned in Japan, then that's what it is. Not sure what the reason is, but it obviously is for a purpose.
And there's no dramatic ending to the story. Everyone's like waiting to you met someone.
No, didn't meet someone who, I just believe there was a purpose. And what the purpose is, I might never find out, but that's fine.
And as you sometimes say, maybe the purpose is that you stayed calm. That itself is a purpose.
Yeah, maybe that was a purpose.
The personal growth becomes the result.
Exactly.
That's great. All right. So now we're ready to bring it all back, and we're revved up, pumped up.
So if you get some notification about more stuff that's happening in BINA or
that's right,
greater stuff, you'll
we had a lot of time to think on the plane.
Yeah.
So some good ideas, exciting things happening. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
All the best.